hooked up, or do you need someone to log you in? Okay, we'll get you logged in. Maybe just a minute to get everyone logged in.
Sure thing. Good afternoon. Let's call meeting of the May 15th, 2025 Santa Fe County Planning Commission to order. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Roll call.
Carl Trujillo. Wendy Piar.
Here.
Dan Pava.
Here.
Jeremy Muir. Jose Crawford. Steve Brugger.
Here.
And Chair Abo.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Staff, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Chair Bo, there are no amendments to the agenda.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Also move.
Thank you, Commissioner. May I get a second? Thank you, Commissioner. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. Next item is approval of the meeting minutes from the April 17th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any, may I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
May I get a second?
Second.
Are there any changes noted? All those to approve the minutes from the April 17th meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. The next item under new business is case number 25-5090, David Anchondo, a variance. Mr. Ruiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it on? Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. David Anchondo, applicant, request a variance of Chapter 9, Table 9.11.2, dimensional standards to the Tres Arroyos de Poniente residential estate to allow a maximum height of 23 feet. The 3.466 acre site is zoned residential estate within the Tres Arroyos del Poniente Community District overlay, which allows for a maximum height of 18 feet. The site is located at 818A, New Mexico 599, Frontage Road within Township 17 North, Range 9 East, Section 29, Commission District 2, SDA 2. The applicant has obtained a development permit 24383, to construct a 5,500 square foot residence. In the process of building a home for his family, Santa Fe County Code Enforcement received a complaint that the height of the residence was not in compliance with the height requirement within the Tres Arroyos del Poniente Overlay District. Therefore, the applicant received a stop work order from Santa Fe County Code Enforcement. Santa Fe had reviewed the approved permit and identified that the permit had been issued in error, as the maximum height in base zoning districts is 24 feet in height. The maximum allowable height in the TAP overlay district is 18 foot in height. Staff met with the applicant to inform the applicant about the review error, and the applicant agreed to apply for the variance. The applicant states, I did all I had in my hands for this to go the smoothest way possible. My permit had been signed and approved a while back. Now I am forced to stop and look for alternatives. There's no way I had inflicted this upon myself, since the permit was reviewed with the two different departments. The building is now sitting at 23 foot, and the code says it should be no higher than 18 foot. The applicant has addressed the variance criteria and staff has responded as contained in the memo. Building and Development Services staff has determined that this application is not in complete compliance with the SLDC, but it seems to be in line with the criteria necessary for granting a variance. Due to staff oversight, the applicant has met the variance criteria where due to extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions of the property, the strict application of the code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties or exceptional and undue hardship on the owner. The causes peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties or exceptional and undue hardship on the applicant owner. The hearing officer heard this case on April 10, 2025. At the hearing, no people spoke for the case and 4 people spoke against the case. The objections to the case are related to the height of the residence blocking the skyline views from neighboring residences. On April 10, 2025, this request was presented to the Sustainable Land Development Hearing Officer. The hearing officer memorialized findings of fact and conclusions of law and recommended order on this request. The recommendations of the hearing officer based on the evidence presented is for denial of the request to allow a variance of height. However, staff recommends approval to allow the residence and the existing height of 23 feet in height. Staff ensures more through thorough review of zoning districts and overlay districts to prevent oversight of this nature. Staff would like to impose 2 conditions to be read as follows. The proposed residence shall be in compliance with all other pertinent requirements of Chapter 9, Section 9.11, Tres Arroyos del Poniente Community Overlay District. And number 2, upon completion of the approved development permit, the applicant shall receive a final inspection from Santa Fe County Code Enforcement and obtain a certificate of completion. Mr. Chair, may I enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
This report and the exhibit listed below I hereby submit it as part of the hearing record. Mr. Chair, at this time I stand for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruiz. Commissioners, do you have any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Bruger?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ruiz, just for the record, I didn't notice in the packet that there was a letter from TAC in there, nor the development permit. Usually that's included in the agenda, so I didn't notice that in here. But
For the TAC meeting?
yeah,
It was a county staff oversight, so we helped them apply for the application.
okay. Other question: when was the development permit issued?
And it was issued, I believe it was in July last year.
And then when was the stop work order issued?
Let me see, it was in the NOV. Let me grab my laptop.
I believe, Mr. Ruiz, I'm looking at the NOV that's dated January 14th. Is that when the stop work
That's
order was
correct.
issued? Of this year, of 24.
Maybe 25?
It says 24, so,
That-
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I noticed that there was a pre-application neighborhood meeting, but was there a pre-application meeting with staff before a permit was issued?
There was, yes. No, there was.
Hearing officer, just for clarification, I mean, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, there was a technical advisory committee meeting, and there was also a neighborhood meeting.
Any other questions of staff from any of the commission?
Yeah, I have a question to follow up on the stop order. Thank you. So the stop order was issued on January 14th. I was looking here at the hearing officer meeting minutes, and looks like some of the, a couple of the people that came to this in opposition had mentioned that the applicant had continued doing work. When staff was there, were any pictures taken, and where was the status of this construction at the time that the stop order was placed? And do we know whether construction did continue or not?
So I believe they were issued as stop work, but since the house was on sheeting, they were allowed to protect the materials. So that's the only construction that continued after that, just to protect the materials.
So the trusses and et cetera were already in place, roof sheeting was already in place at the time?
Correct.
And just if I might follow up on that, so the protection, it appears to be there's Tyvek or whatever the roof membrane is before you put the actual roof on. That's what I understood the additional work was. It wasn't adding new sheeting or continuing the work. It was basically just putting that, we used to use tar paper in my day, but now it's some kind of sub-membrane for the roof. Is that,
That's correct.
got it, thank you. And there was, as I read in the record, there was some communication with staff to allow that to be applied?
That's correct. On the last hearing, we allowed them to finish the protection of the materials.
Protection of the material, thanks. And so if I were to go to the site right now, it would look like the photos where the OSB is exposed and there's white plastic on the roof or
That's
blue
correct.
plastic. Thank you.
Yeah, furthermore, I guess I just have a question with the staff as far as like, because I know going in for permitting, one of the first things, staff generally does is just look at the zoning map, the NSLDC interactive map. You can just pull it up on an address and it comes up with the information as far as what the overlay zone is, et cetera. So I guess I'm just curious, how often this kind of potential error happens by staff, and if what is there that staff and county can do to make sure they improve moving forward, because that is one of the simplest things that should be the first thing staff does.
Right. So I don't have an exact number on permits in that area, but we have average about 30 permits a year on that de Tres Arroyos de Poniente, and there's different variables depending on the zoning of the residents. It was, again, an oversight.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, just for clarity on that as well, we rarely make this type of error. We do have a new map link which we were utilizing and did not pull over overlays. And could have been the possibility that when the permit was reviewed, they utilized that map link instead of our ArcGIS mapping, which does break down the zoning district. So it's a good possibility that occurred and went through the process. But these are very minimum. We see maybe one every 7 to 10 years that happen.
Any further questions from commissioners? Commissioner Pava.
Thank you. For Mr. Ruiz, in this area, within the boundaries of the Tres Arroyos plan, would staff happen to know how many other structures exceed the 18-foot height limit, or if there are any other exceptions?
I have not looked into that, sir.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, there are approximately 4 to 6 pre-code structures that exceed the height limitations, but there's one directly north and east to that structure that is also a 2-story. This is not a 2-story, this is a single story, but the other residence is a 2-story.
Whether it's a 1 or a 2-story, it would still, under the Tres Arroyos overlay, it would still be 18 feet.
Mr. Chair, Commission Member
Yeah.
Pava, that is correct.
And is there, have other variances to height been granted, to our knowledge, in Tres Arroyos?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Pava, I believe there has not been.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Pava, just for clarity, there is an individual that lives next door to this property, which was granted a deviation of about 1.5 feet above the 18 height max limitation due to drainage concerns rolling into her garage. So she needed a level area, so that way one portion of the residence exceeded that 18 height and went 1 foot 8 inches above that.
Was that done administratively?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Pava, that was done administratively.
The reason I ask these questions is when I looked at the aerial of the surrounding area provided in the staff packet for us, there's not a huge number of homes anywhere in the vicinity. The one you mentioned, perhaps. So it's still a sparsely developed area, at least from the view that was provided to us.
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Pava, that is correct. And also, I just want to note for the board, for geographical reasons, just north of this is what is, I believe, what is the care facility? I can't think of it, but it's
At the senior care
the
facility?
senior care facility, which is a three-story unit.
That's
Or
Legacy.
structure, I should say.
The Legacy development near Aldea.
Legacy, there you
Yeah,
go. Thank you
familiar
very
with
much.
that. My daughter worked there for a while, so yeah. And then you have, on the city side, you have some fairly high apartments. Well, it's the city, different jurisdiction, different zoning, I get all that. And this does have the Tres Arroyos overlay, which is specifically designed by people a few decades ago to keep the certain aesthetic in mind. So I get that.
Mr. Chair, for better lack of luster, Commission members, we do have portions that are in the Agua Fria overlay across the street from 599, the interior portion. The other side is Tres Arroyos. So there is some mix and match. You do have 2-story units on the right-hand side. You have this one unit along with several others that are there on the left-hand side, which is county jurisdiction. The intent was so that you didn't have this huge corridor with double 2-story structures. And just for clarity and so you guys understand the logistics of the area.
One final follow-up. Would staff happen to know if, I know there are some state land parcels out there, and those state land parcels are being advertised by the land commissioner as being available for development along the 599 corridor. Are these parcels very close to Tres Arroyos, or are they further away? Anybody can answer that.
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Pava, there are several state land offices as well as city properties, as well as city properties that are fairly close to Tres Arroyos and not quite implemented because they have their own jurisdiction. But once they become, I would think that the county would amend their ordinance to include those properties as they'll be under county jurisdiction.
Yeah, thank you. It kind of reminds me, long ago I was a planner in Albuquerque. We did a plan for Coors Corridor, and I'm talking about 40 years ago, so that dates me. But there were places like Tres Arroyos. There's a place called Alban Hills that when you drive by it today, they're minimum 5-acre lots, and there are development requirements. It has not changed. Well, everything else around it certainly has changed as things have evolved. So it seems to be kind of a natural factor with growth and development.
Any other questions of staff from the commission?
Just one kind of follow-up on that, just clarify. So only 4 to 5 structures prior to the SLDC that are higher than 18?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Crawford, that is correct. That's to staff's knowledge. There may be some more tucked back in the back, but
And is staff by chance aware whether, I know that sometimes these overlay districts get revisited. I know they're doing that like up in the Suca area, et cetera. So just kind of curious, is there any anticipated, just that, that the zoning district is being revisited by the community to potentially adjust any of their regulations?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Crawford, the county, typically the planning department, usually updates plans every 10 years, 8 to 10 years, sometime sooner. I believe this one's very much up for update, and this is something that could affect surrounding properties and that they could change the logistics of this area.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Ruiz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So is the applicant here?
Yes, he is, Mr. Chair.
So would you like to make a statement? If so, please be sworn in and come on up.
David Anchondo, 4300 Paseo de la Sequia.
Please proceed, Mr. Echel.
So like David stated, I applied for the permit. I tried, it was a pretty long process, but I tried to have everything in line. Everything seemed that was in my favor until I actually was like a year after, starting this year, the building, I guess, was too high, obviously. It was too tall, and it seems like it upset some neighbors. So, I understand it's somewhat in between views or something, but I feel like it's just a matter of, community growing as well, I think if this would have been done, if I would have been known that, hey, you can't build a house this tall, I would have taken everything back. But right now, I'm in a really tight situation because, where are the funds going to come from to re-slope the house, bring it down? I'm not talking about just cutting the roof. We need to buy new trusses. We need to redeck the house. All the sheeting, up on the roof. So, I'm all for being compliant, but which is why I'm here applying for the variance, obviously. But like I said, I was trying to do this the smoothest and easiest way to not have, neighbors upset, anything like that, and just to do it the best to, just as a community as well, because I'm going to be living there, so I wouldn't want to be on any neighbor's bad side either, So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I think the introduction was pretty self-explanatory. I applied for the permit. It was signed and provided for me, and to me that was done the right way, Everything out of that, after that, is just out of my hands. And I think that's pretty much all for me.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I think I read in the materials that we had that this house was actually designed for a different site, but acquisition of that property fell through. Can you describe
Yes.
what
So
happened there? Thanks.
So basically, I had purchased, having a set of plans is not cheap. I'm pretty sure you guys understand. So I had the plans for a couple years already, which was designed for another lot, but it just fell through. So I came across this property back in 2020. So when I purchased it, that's when I intended to do.
And so just to follow up, so did the same person who designed the house for the other property prepare a site plan and do that kind of stuff to make it appropriate for this property, or did you just have the plans and then someone else did that for you?
Well, I basically just provided the plans and we fitted them onto the, the scale, or I don't know what it's called really, but where the actual lot.
Yeah. So usually the first sheet shows a site plan. Where is
Yeah,
this?
like
and
the
stuff
elevations and stuff, all
that.
that.
Yeah. So you had the designer prepare the plans for a different location, and then when that purchase fell through, you use those plans for this, but you didn't have that designer still, you didn't still have him on board with you?
No.
Okay, thanks very much. Commissioners, do you have other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Bruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anchondo, who is the architect of record who did these plans?
I would have to go back in my file because I don't have the name off the top of my head.
Okay,
I know his name is Mark, but I don't know how his business is named.
okay. Did you get a building permit from CID for this?
Yes.
You did.
That's why I stated that it was reviewed by two different buildings, offices basically with the county and CID.
Have you done any worst-case projections as far as what the cost would be to comply?
No, I have not.
Is it, I assume it's a lot?
Yeah, I would not even want to get into it because, it's just out of my budget and it's not something I'm willing to, do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, I just wanted to bring up, I think it was Commissioner Crawford that had asked about, items in place to kind of assure that this doesn't happen in the future. I can let you know that I am part of the staff that's building the online permitting system for residential permits, and I have implemented a second workflow so that way more eyes can see these projects after the initial review. So we are implementing some practices to help us with this in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Thanks very much. Any other questions from any of the commissioners for the applicant? Commissioner Trujillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm looking at the photos here, and to cut this, in my opinion, I do building as well, but the idea is to cut this building by 5 foot. Is that correct? That's what I understand it to be?
What I was thinking was that the county officers had told me it was about 3 feet and a couple, so, because it's sitting at 23, they said that I have like a foot of, I'm bad with the names, but I guess, we just need about 3.5 feet. That was for the variance, but to cut it, it's gonna be at least 4 feet.
Commissioner Trujillo, I believe there's a 10% variance that staff can administratively apply, so that gets the 18
Oh, to the 18
plus
feet.
1.8. Yeah, so just to clear that up, thanks.
So I apologize for being in here late, I really do. And so as I understand this case is that this was approved by the county and permits were obtained by the county and CID. Construction started and you had called CID for all the different steps from foundation to plumbing, inspection, slab inspection, everything up to this point.
Yes, so the house, like I said, it's just framed right now. There's no extensive construction other than the slab, the foundation, and the, framing of the house. I dried in the roof, which was the extra work that the, neighbors had said that I was doing. But like I said, no, there's, to answer your question, there's really, I don't even know how to put it, but totally, can you just repeat the question again? What was it again?
Well, so up to this point, as you've built, you've obtained all the proper inspections by CID to get you to this point.
Oh, yeah.
Construction
Everything has
industry.
been done the proper way, yes.
Okay. And as I look at this structure, I see the slope of the lower roof, and whatever that slope is, 512 or 612, 412, and that's the same contiguous slope that you have on that higher pitch. And And so that's what adds the attraction to the home. I mean, in order to lower this, it's going to change this whole dynamic and really look awkward for something that you've spent a lot of money and time and investment for you. I'm assuming it's for you and your family.
Correct.
And so I do look at this and I realize how much work's gone into this, and so I have a deep appreciation for this. Looking at it feasibly to try and cut this down, whatever the number is, 3.5 feet, will certainly be a lot of work, and it's really not that easy. And so from that perspective, I'm just looking at this and trying to understand the whole thing. But I appreciate your testimony today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners for the applicant? Commissioner Crawford.
Yeah, so thank you for answering some of the questions, because I was trying to also figure out the architect scenario on this, because obviously this is a pretty large house, 5,500 square feet and stuff. It's obviously going to be a very expensive house to build, so you've got, I know, a lot of money invested in this. So and looking, like I said, just like Mr. Trujillo, Commissioner Trujillo mentioned, definitely a lot of time, effort put into this. And I think you're kind of stuck in a really difficult situation with this. But I'm trying to look at it and wondering, so you had some set of plans, my understanding, you had some set of plans that were developed by an architect for a previous site. So I guess you did not acquire a local architect or another architect at the time for the permitting of this structure, correct?
It was the same guy that made the plans back in 2019. He did make them. I took him back to him so that I didn't have to pay the whole amount for the set of plans. I just had him basically switch the location to.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm looking at the plans too, and I don't see a stamp on there. So was this a licensed architect that you hired, or just an architectural drafter or designer?
Should be I think it is an actual architect. Like I said, I can provide the name, but I don't have it off the top of my head right now. I would have to look into my email.
And that's where this is where I have kind of a potential issue on my end, is that, if you've got an architect involved, that is the first thing. I'm an architect, so that's the first thing we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is we look at dimensional standards, and that's basic stuff,
Yeah.
When we're looking at, we're going to be building in a particular area. If you've got a professional involved, that professional should have definitely done their job. You,
Okay.
as a homeowner, obviously you have some leniency there as a layman. You're not a professional, so you may not necessarily know development codes, but even so, I think the onus is towards, if you're going to build something, even if you don't have an architect involved, I think you should make sure you know and do your due diligence to find out what should be done, what's allowed in your particular area. And in particular, when you're dealing with like a large residence like this, and I'm looking at these plans too, and I'm like, it's hard, because there's the 10% deviations. You're dealing with maybe 3 foot, 3 inches or whatever that you might have to drop down if you get the 10% deviation. Maybe you could shore up the whole entire roof line and then cut it down, but you're dealing with having to get rid of your small clerestory windows. There is that one large window, or that set of 3 large windows on the front. So I guess another question to you is, have you already ordered your window package?
I do have my windows.
So Mr. Trio might have had a comment or something to mention.
I do have a comment. My comment is, under New Mexico law, you do not have to be a licensed architect to design and build and submit for a single-family residence. And so for this individual, he could have done these plans himself for all given purposes. And so if anybody goes to submit plans as an individual and the county stamps them, in my opinion, and they've reviewed them, then he's passed the mustard, so to speak, that they move on to the next phase. And now construction industry looks at these plans And in most cases, construction industry, that's why we have inspectors, because they go out there and they look at the physical presence of us as the structure is built. And so whether an architect stamped these plans or not, because it's a single-family residence, he's met what's required by code and by law. And so for that reason, I think he's done what his due diligence in this whole process is my feeling.
Commissioner?
Yes, I agree. I don't think it matters who the architect was. When they came to the county to get the permit, that's when it should have been caught, right? I mean, they're the experts. Should have been, a lot of people, we say, you should read the land use plan, read the code. A lot of people don't. They should, because there's a lot of really good information in it. But you're relying on the people you hired, and you're relying on the county staff. You did everything right. You got your permits. This is just a mistake that doesn't happen very often, but it happened in this time.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, even to today, a individual can still draw their own plans in this state for a single-family residence. Now, I'm not talking about commercial, I'm not talking about multifamily, but this gentleman could have drawn these plans and submitted it to the county and gone through the whole process, whether it was him or somebody else. That's actually doesn't matter. He's following proper procedure at that point. And so I just want to state that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's interesting having a builder and an architect on the commission and this particular conversation. Commissioner Bruegger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we don't need to debate this, but in any event, whoever does the plans, as Commissioner Crawford said, whoever does it, whether it's an individual or whether it's an architect, they have, or you have, the responsibility to know the codes and the plans under which you operate. That's it. So, yeah, there's human error, but you have that responsibility as well. So don't need to debate it, but I did want to add that.
Sure. Any other questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
This is a public hearing, and anybody interested in speaking either in support of or in opposition to this application? If so, please come forward to the microphone, be sworn in. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, I do just want to address members online that if you are willing to speak on this matter, please remain muted until you're called upon and use your virtual hand to indicate that you wish to speak on this matter.
Lisa Sproul, 8 Camino del Prado, Santa Fe, 87507. Yeah, I had a question regarding this last, couple of things said. My husband's a builder, and he's built about 130 homes in Santa Fe, in the city and the county both. We live in Puesta del Sol, which is right next to the house they're building. My husband is a designer and a builder, but he is not an architect. He has to have his plans signed by either an engineer, an engineer who has a current dated stamp, or an architect, but he has to have the engineer's stamp. And the engineer does know the ordinances, and he does know the law regarding height restrictions, et cetera. So I was wondering, is there an engineer's stamp on these plans?
Thank you, ma'am. Please provide your comments. I think the question you're asking, were the trusses properly engineered?
No, I'm
is
asking.
Kind of outside the scope.
No, I'm asking about the slab, everything. All of the house has to have engineering on the entire house, not just, to hold up the roof, et cetera. It has nothing to do with what you were suggesting. So it has to be stamped as you submit.
I can answer to a little bit to that, and staff can probably answer as well. Mr. Trio is actually correct with respect to New Mexico Code. So you don't need to have a licensed architect involved for residential design up to 2 stories, or unless you're actually using some sort of alternative material. Once you're using alternative material, or after a certain, after 3 stories, then you're required to have a registered licensed professional to do it, whether that's an architect or an engineer. I think what you're getting at is that foundation systems, for instance, tend to be engineered by a licensed structural engineer. But as far as the actual set of plans, Commissioner Trujillo is correct that any homeowner can come and submit a set of plans essentially without it.
Without an
being
engineering
licensed,
stamp.
Without
for
a
the county.
licensed.
But what about grading and drainage plans? Those have to be done by a civil engineer.
Ma'am, could you please provide your comments
Oh, I'm sorry.
rather than start,
I'm
continue
sorry.
the dialogue?
I
Thank you
just,
very much.
I feel that engineers also have to be held responsible for the plans too.
I'm sorry, that was your comment? My apologies. Yeah, that was my. Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone else interested in speaking either for or against this application?
And I do.
Ann Noble, 40 Cayavarada, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I have lived in the Tres Arroyos neighborhood for the past 27 years. I spent many hours with many of my neighbors working on the TAP plan which set forth the 18-foot height ordinance those many years ago. During the ensuing years, many homes have been built in the area. They all abided by the 18-foot ordinance, leading to a visually low-impact rural area. I think that Mr. Anchando's home should do the same. I realize that something went wrong when the county mistakenly approved his building permit, and I feel for Mr. Anchando. However, I think that he should have reviewed the county building codes for the area he was building in before he submitted his plans to the county in the first place. I think that is what every other builder does, and I cannot understand how he was so remiss in not doing that before any plans were submitted for review. It's a terrible situation, but it does not preclude the fact that this house should not go against the county ordinances and guidelines, and I feel that he should not be allowed to proceed. I hope he can work with the county to remediate the problem, but not by giving him a variance that would ultimately probably set precedents for builders to ignore the height restrictions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone else in the room interested in speaking either in support of or in opposition to this application?
I do. Carrie McBride, 35 Camino Espejo, Santa Fe, 87507. Members of the board, and Mr. Anchando, just want to say as a neighbor that this is a really unfortunate situation, and we all really feel for Mr. Anchando. We met in February on the street, whole group of neighbors, and some of the information today is a little bit new for me. I recall Mr. Anchando sharing that the architect didn't pay attention to the code, and that wasn't his fault. And now I've learned that it was actually a design for a different plot of land that then was just applied to the current existing land. But nonetheless, the discussion was held around the architect's responsibility to know the height restrictions. And also, I may be confused, but I thought Mr. Anchando is the builder. He mentioned that. And so we had discussion that day that as a builder, you need to know the code as well. And so it was unfortunate that he did not know that there was the height restrictions. So nonetheless, this is a very unfortunate situation. It's a terrible mistake, a grievous mistake made by the county staff, and I would urge you all to uphold the recommendation of the hearing officer who's saying to deny the variance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the room interested in speaking either for or against this application? How about online? Do we have any folks interested in speaking?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commission members, we have Tom Terwillinger online. Tom, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I need to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth?
yes.
Okay, and also provide your name and address, please.
Thomas C. Terwilliger, 68 Camino Espejo, Santa Fe, 87507.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I was the leader of the Tres Arroyos de Poniente planning group, and this planning group met for about a decade, had members from around the TAP area, some coming from as far as southern New Mexico. The planning group operated by consensus, so everyone had to agree on all aspects of the plan, and anyone could participate. A key vision of the plan is to preserve the rural character of the community. The 18-foot height limit was agreed upon and was part of that plan. The plan was presented to the entire community at public meetings that were announced to all property owners in the TAP area and in news releases in June 24th and 30th of 2015. It was approved by the county and is a county code as of 2015. The proposed variance is a 5-foot increase in height above that 18-foot limit. And the house, as it's been built, illustrates that 18-foot was actually a very good limit. Viewed from 599, the big highway, the part that's over 18 foot sticks up above the skyline. The house towers over all the neighbors, even dominating the neighboring pre-code house that is a little over 18 feet. It's quite far from the senior center and not visible at the same time from 599. It is clearly inconsistent with the vision and the code of the TAP plan. The applicant did hold a public meeting, as we heard earlier, in February. He stated, as he did again today, that if he had known of the 18-foot limit, he would have been fine with it. After the variance meeting in April, the applicant told several of us that he first had the house designed and then decided afterwards where to put it. This is what we just heard again. He added then that he had not researched the building codes for the site when where he decided to build the house. So if the variance is approved, I believe it would cause permanent harm to the community by changing the character of the area. Not just this house, but the many variances that will surely follow using this one as a precedent. People won't remember that this one was an exception for a special reason. A variance is clearly contrary to the public interest. County staff argues, as they made a mistake in permitting, a variance should be approved. However, the fundamental mistake was that the house was built out of compliance with county code. The clerical error on the part of county staff only delayed the county becoming aware of this violation. I feel very sorry for the applicant, as others have stated as well, but he made a serious error. But the county staff did not notice it, and that's very unfortunate. It's not reasonable to ask the TAP community to suffer just because the county staff inadvertently allowed the applicant to start building when they should have denied the permit. I encourage you to decline this variance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else online who wishes to speak either in support of or opposition to this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commission members, there is Toby G. Toby G, please unmute yourself.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please
Okay.
identify yourself and state your name.
Yes. Toby Gass, Gass, 68 Camino Espejo.
Toby, I need to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
I am here digitally as a 30-plus year resident of the area covered by the TAP plan, and I support the hearing officer's recommendation. The TAP plan was many years in the making, with considerable investment by many community residents and county staff. The staff report in the packet for this meeting says that the 4 speakers at the earlier hearing were concerned about the views from the neighboring properties and does not mention any other concerns voiced by the speakers. I encourage you to revisit the hearing officer's summary and the transcripts of the meeting, where you will see that the views were mentioned, but were not the major issue. The major issue was honoring the TAP plan and its objectives. One of my main concerns is for the precedent that granting this variant could set. The Anchondo home is not only 23 feet high, it is also on a high point in the landscape. The closer pre-code house that also exceeds the 18-foot height limit is on a low point in the landscape, making one extremely visible from the surrounding area and the other barely visible at all. Granting this variance in violation of the TAP plan requirements would create a very visible, non-conforming structure that would encourage others to build something similar. Last year, a request for a 10% administrative variance for a nearby property was denied. When the property owner saw the roof line for the Anchondo structure, she came back to the county to complain, and her 10% variance was granted. That is the neighboring variance that Mr. Ruiz mentioned. So that variance has only been granted in specific response already to the Anchondo house. It is the first step of a likely domino effect that would pressure the county to consider more and more variance requests within the TAP boundaries. Fundamentally, we have to ask why we are talking about a variance. In this case, which we all understand is very unfortunate for Mr. Anchondo, the county made a mistake by issuing a permit for a structure that violates county code, which is an administrative error. Another error was likely made when Mr. Anchondo was allowed to do additional work to, quote unquote, protect his investment when a tarp or a tent might have done the job. Where the code talks about variances for exceptional circumstances or hardship, I don't think it is referring to situations resulting from administrative error. I believe it is referring to unusual construction needs, perhaps for accessibility for a disabled individual or something related to the site conditions or historic preservation. It seems to me that the question of the variance should be considered as if that permit had never been issued. Suppose the building were not now under construction and Mr. Anchondo were requesting a variance for this 23-foot high building to accommodate the dormer windows. Does this building meet the criteria for issuing a variance? As far as I can tell, it does not. The purpose of the variance process is to address particular construction situations, not to remedy administrative error. This situation likely should have been handled very differently and sent through different channels from the time the permitting error was discovered, and it should be sent through those channels now. For these reasons and those presented by others today, I support the hearing officer's recommendation and request that the variance be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members, we have an additional member online who wishes to speak on this matter. All there is initials E and R. If you will please unmute your mic.
Hello, my name is Edward Rivera. I live at 10 Calle Carla. I am, sorry.
Mr. Rivera, I need to swear you in, please. Do
Sure,
you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
So I'm sorry to say that I think the variance should be denied. I keep hearing that this is the fault of the county. But I also believe that due diligence was not completely followed through. It is the responsibility of the owner, the builder, the architect, and the county. So I'm sorry to say, but I think this variance should be denied.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else online interested in speaking in opposition or in support of this application?
Mr. Chair, there is not.
Thank you very much. We'll now close the public hearing. Commission, let's discuss. Commissioner Pava.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I have a couple questions for staff now that we've heard staff presentation and that of the applicant and those comments from the public. I'm looking at Exhibit C, page A1, which does show me a representation. It's a plat, and this lot is about more or less 1,000 feet long and 135 feet wide. It's not atypical in Santa Fe. We have situations like this from former land uses and how land was divided and all of that. So my question is, when you look at the elevation gradient, the differences, this lot ranges from 6,726 feet to, if I've got this right, 6,748. There's a 22-foot difference in elevation on this lot from south to north, and I want to know what the code definition of defining the mean elevation to determine the variance would be, because even if it was the mean and there's a 22-foot difference, or 22-foot difference, you may have 11 feet to play with. I know that the house has been built on the highest spot. I'm wondering, because of this, if we interpret the code strictly, is there the possibility that this structure need not have a variance at all based on the mean elevation of the lot? Or are we strictly talking about no matter from where it's actually located, which pretty much is the highest elevation on the lot, and you're measuring it only from that spot? Because this lot varies greatly in its elevations.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members, and Commission Member Pava, there's a couple of features on this lot that prohibits buildable area, and that one is to the back end of it, which is open space, and that's a low end point where it starts to drop off. While this house does sit on the highest point, it is not prohibited to put that house where it is unless it was labeled as a ridge top. So yes, it's the highest point. I do understand your question about the height standards. And so the way height's taken is from any elevation of the uppermost point of that structure to the lowest most point of that structure is the height of that elevation. Should that elevation exceed the limit requirements, then they need to address that. But any house, whether it had been a mobile home or a single-family residence that was 5,000 square feet and sprawled out on this property rather than upward, or for the clear height ceilings, would have been allowed on this lot, no matter where you placed it, if they met all the right code requirements.
Thank you for the clarification. It's just a very unusual lot with a lot of elevation difference, and other codes and other times I've seen different interpretations personally that I've made. So I wanted the clarification as specific to this case in Santa Fe County.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, there are many lots that are long and narrow on this stretch here, and that was due to when 599 came through. A lot of these lots got separated, and they were already long, contiguous lots that created all the way into Olive Rios area.
Thank you, Commissioner Pava. Any questions? Commissioner Bruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for legal on this one. Some of the public testimony that had been raised was mentioned that if a variance was approved in this situation, even if it's an extraordinary situation, it could set a precedent that others could use to build in excess of 18 feet. Is there a way to guard against that? Or if this variance is approved for whatever reason, then the precedent has been set? It seems to me there's two issues. One, what happens in this situation, which is just flat out difficult for everybody? And the second thing is, what happens in the future if others say, Mr. Anchondo did it, I can do it? Is there any way to guard against that?
Well, generally speaking, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bruger, precedent is based on the facts and circumstances of any individual case. So for a future property owner to successfully rely on this as precedent, if you were to approve this application, the circumstances would need to be identical or very similar. And obviously the most important factual aspect of this situation is the mistake by the county. So so long as a decision, if it were to grant the variance, if the decision were to make it clear that that your motivation for that decision is in fact the error by the county and the reliance of the applicant on the approval, the permit that was granted, other parties would not be able to rely on that as precedent to simply say we should be allowed to go to 23 feet under any normal circumstances. Does that answer your question?
So, Mr. Chair, can I follow up on that? So Roger, you guys have the code that you're following, and there's other HOAs all over Santa Fe County that have their specific HOA rules. And so now is it the county, shouldn't an HOA be responsible for looking over the plans before they bring them to you or give some sort of approval? Because now at this point, you're not only responsible, it's for the SLDC code, you're responsible for every other HOA code across the whole county. And it could seem kind of unreasonable for your staff to be responsible for all of that. It seems like some of the ownership should be on the HOA that has to go through some sort of approval process and say, yes, this does not meet these requirements.
If I understand your question, I think you're absolutely right, Commissioner Trujillo. The county, as a general broad practice, does not enforce private covenants against individual landowners. The county only enforces the SLDC with respect to those types of covenants, and just as a matter of common sense and personal knowledge, it's my impression that most active homeowner associations do have a procedure and a process in place by which a landowner hoping to or intending to build a residence on the parcel is expected to take the plans before the HOA or an architectural review committee of the HOA and get approval of those plans in advance. If an owner is required to do that and doesn't do it, then again, that's not a county enforcement issue. That's privately enforced as between the homeowners association and the landowner. But the county's obligation is solely to enforce the dimensional standards set forth in the SLDC.
So that's where I've had a little agina here, is because we kept saying the county's fault, and I don't surely look at this as the county's fault. Let me ask you just one quick question. In the hearing officer's report on number 9, it says staff testified there were several structures in the vicinity of the property that also exceed 18 feet in height. Is that within this own HOA area?
Just, I want to get something straight. My understanding is this is not an HOA. My understanding is that the neighbors got together and created an overlay district to be applied as part of county coding, zoning, so it's a little different. Just want to get that clear, thanks.
So then let me just ask you question number 9. Staff testified there are several other structures in the vicinity of the property that exceed 18 feet in height. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Trio, could you repeat that question?
So in the hearing officer's recommendation, number 9 says staff testified there are several other structures in the vicinity of the property that also exceed 18 feet in height.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Trujillo, there is 2 other structures that are located adjacent to this parcel, and about a good 12 that are opposite side of 599, which are within the Agua Fria zoning district.
And those are pre-overlay district. Those were constructed pre-overlay district as I read the materials, so.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, the ones on the Tres Arroyos side are pre, but the others on the Agua Fria side are.
But they're outside the district, so it
fairly
doesn't apply.
new.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, Commissioner, but.
No problem. So, Mr. Chair, if we're ready, I'm ready to.
Yeah, just, Commissioner, Commissioner Bruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I wasn't quite ready.
I'm sorry.
Just a comment that, thank you, Mr. Chair, for stating this is part of the, this community district overlay is part of the code. And if I understand correctly, that was created as part of a community plan that was done, that people participated in. And this is a difficult situation because if we want people to participate in community planning efforts that result in something like this, it's important that some of the restrictions are acknowledged. So this is an unusual situation, but still, it's a real issue. That's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I would agree with you if they came in with plans to have a 23-foot house, but they said, oh, no, you have to do 18, and then then they can, revise their plans to accordingly. But this happened after they received a permit and the house is built. To me, that is totally different. I've reviewed a lot of projects, and, sometimes they come in and they're not correct. You catch those before someone actually builds a structure, and then will cost him a lot of money to take down. I understand about the community overlay, and about precedent setting, but if someone wants to come in, they'd have to come in again, and they'd have to apply for a variance and have to go through, all of this discussion that we're having with this. So I just think this is an unusual situation that isn't fair on any level.
Thank you. I have a question for Roger, if I could. One of the online commenters indicated that extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions of the property really only relate to conditions of the property. But the way I read that sentence is, where due to extraordinary and exceptional situations, stop, or conditions of the property, stop. I see those as two distinct elements to apply. And I disagree with the commenter's interpretation that it's all about the property or access or something like that. I just want your, off the cuff admittedly, but your opinion on how you read that phrase in the code.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I do think there can be different interpretations given to whether the phrase extraordinary and exceptional Is used to
situations.
modify situations only, or does it also modify conditions of the property? As you read it, and you, for emphasis, inserted a comma
Right.
after situations, which is not an unreasonable reading, in fact.
And so that's all I'm asking really. Is that one reasonable way to interpret that? That an extraordinary and exceptional situation might be this administrative situation, rather than it must be tied to the property that's at issue. I'm just trying to understand whoever wrote this, what were they, am I reading this properly?
I think your reading is certainly reasonable.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Pava.
Yeah, my last comment, I promise. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for Mr. Prosino. This is a quasi-judicial hearing that's appealable to the county commission, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So whether we vote to deny or whether we vote for approve, those affected parties can then make an appeal to commission. Is that correct?
Presumably, that's accurate.
Thank you.
I've got some things to say, I guess. So, on a general comment, Mr. Trio, you bring up an interesting point. This is more, again, like a planning and zoning department scenario, but we do have these overlay zones, which are not HOAs, right? But they are essentially have been established by the community to determine these regulations that everybody in the community has decided to enact. It's interesting though with your comment as far as like whether there is a venue for these overlay zone districts to have their own quasi, agency to be able to review stuff that's coming through, that's being done in their particular district, so that all the onus of review is not strictly on the staff, which I think is kind of an interesting to just bring up as something that maybe planning and zoning should consider for future, but that's one comment. The other comment that I have is with respect to precedents, so some of the people that have been against this has mentioned that this is setting the precedents with respect to the height. And me personally, I don't think that's necessarily my concern, is not the precedents for this particular height in this particular overlay district. But for me, I'm worried about setting the precedents of the fact that we, as a board, would essentially, or could approve something just based on a staff error. That means that anybody in the future could submit something incorrectly because, like, Commissioner mentioned, is like, yeah, people don't look at the code, they don't review it. I'm hearing people say, hey, it's not necessarily the onus of the individuals to necessarily review it, which means that this could happen often. If we are not putting the onus on individuals to submit something and look at it themselves, whether they have a professional or they're submitting it themselves, then that means that we're putting the onus on staff to essentially review that and either make an error or not. And that's a precedence that I don't necessarily agree with, And a legal question, I guess, is, how protected, I guess, is the county with respect to like the Tort Claims Act? That's a question for you, Roger, more so if this was to be denied, because obviously there is some legal ramifications to any one of these decisions that we make, potential.
Well, I will not hold myself out as a litigation expert or an expert in the Tort Claims Act, but yes, you're right. It is out there. It does provide broad protections to the county for assertions of damages. The other potential claim or cause of action could be something for not damages necessarily, but a claim of estoppel or reliance. And whether that would succeed or not, obviously I'm not in position to opine on, and don't think it would be appropriate to opine on that in public. But those types of claims are not prohibited against governmental entities necessarily. And so that is something that's out there to be aware of.
Okay. And yeah, so that's really, I guess, my concern partially is the precedence with respect to, error on staff should not necessarily mean that, there would be an approval of a project, right? That's something that shouldn't necessarily be a fact. I mean, the regulations are in place so that people should actually meet this. And I'm standing here, I'm a rookie here, right? This is my second meeting here, but I kind of am looking at this as a community member, right? It's like, this is a community scenario. We're looking at the public interest. There are I have to look at this as an individual case because I feel like the applicant here is in a really difficult situation, But if I look at this as a community, we've got an overlay zone. We've got several people have come against this particular variance, and I think one of the key things, and one of the people that mentioned Toby, she mentioned something about the fact, would the variance have been approved if it was not under construction already, right? That's something that I thought was kind of interesting, and should a variance be approved based on staff error? And those are a couple things that I'm just trying to think about, because this is a difficult situation, but I do think that there's definitely some the applicant, I think, is going to be in a really bad shape if we deny it, obviously. And I'm hearing some approvals towards approval too, but those are a couple, I guess, comments that I just wanted to mention on my behalf, I guess. So
Thank you, Commissioner. What is Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve variance case 255090 with staff recommendations of number 1 for a due pass.
I will second.
So we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chair, before we get further, was that with both conditions of approval?
I believe he indicated that it was with staff conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Yes.
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 No.
No.
Yes? Thank you very much. That concludes this case. Thank you. Next, we have case number 25-5040, Ridgeline Manufacturing Conditional Use Permit Application.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members. Dominic J. Cisneros, Building and Development Supervisor with the Growth Management Department. Ridgeline Manufacturing Conditional Use Permit, CUP. Matthias Roybal, applicant, is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to operate a manufacturing business from their 67.10 acre parcel. The property is zoned residential estate in the rural commercial overlay zone. Chapter 8.11.2.4 states that a manufacturing business is a CUP within the rural commercial overlay. The subject property is located at 3236 NM 41. The applicant proposes to construct a 2,800 square foot accessory structure, garage, on this property to operate a manufacturing business and utilize the second floor as his office. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit for a manufacturing business to manufacture parts for Sandia and Los Alamos laboratories. The use of the structure will be for operating CNC machines, materials, metals and plastic composites, and small tool storage. There will be one non-resident employee, and the operating hours will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will be approximately 4 visits per month from clients, as all deliveries will be coming through the parcel deliveries such as USPS, FedEx, and UPS.
The existing residence on the property was built prior to 1980 and will not require permitting. The stables as well were built prior to 1980. No permits were found for the existing carport as well as the existing garage. During a scheduled site visit by staff on March 4th, 2025, it was identified that the applicant had started grading without a development permit. The subject property is zoned residential estate in the rural commercial overlay zone, Chapter 8.11.2.4. This zoning allows for manufacturing business as a CUP within the rural commercial overlay zone. As per residential estates, there can be one dwelling per 2.5 acres base density. The applicant addressed and staff reviewed the applicable design standards as per Chapter 7, Sustainable Design Standards of the SLDC. Building and Development Services staff has reviewed this project for compliance with the pertinent SLDC requirements and any relevant ordinances, and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to allow a manufacturing business. The use is compatible with the current development within the affected zoning districts. The use will not impact adjacent land uses, and the applicant satisfies the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.5. The review comments from staff, county fire, and review from county staff have established findings that the application is approved to allow a manufacturing business, is in compliance with the state requirements and the SLDC, including the pertinent design standards. The hearing officer heard this case on April 10th, 2025. At the hearing, no people spoke in support of the case and no people spoke against the case. The hearing officer memorialized findings of facts and conclusion of law and in a recommended order on this request. The recommendation of the hearing officer and staff's recommendation is for approval of a conditional use permit to allow the use of a manufacturing business subject to the following conditions. Chair, may I enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, please do.
The report and exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
I guess I do.
Commissioner Crawford.
Yeah, just a quick clarification, because I was looking at this, and it's like, as far as the wells are concerned, I know this is not a planning and zoning, jurisdiction for us, but I'm just curious, because there was some discrepancy there. So, my understanding when I was reading is that there's two current existing wells, is that correct? And is there one of them is being used as a shared well between the residences? And then there's also some comment about a commercial well that would be, I guess, requested by the applicant. So I'm just trying to clarify: is there just one well, two wells, three wells?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Crawford, that is correct. There are two wells on the property.
And so are they applying for a separate commercial well?
That is correct. They will be applying for a separate commercial well.
Or a third well?
No, that's
using one of the wells
to convert one of the existing domestic wells to a commercial well.
Was one of those wells
Can I
used for
comment on
irrigation?
this?
I'm sorry?
Was one of the wells used for irrigation, like pivot irrigation?
I believe so. The applicant is not present, but they are online. They may be able to answer those questions.
We'll get to you in a second, applicant, if you can hold on. Thank you. Do commissioners have any other questions of staff? I understand the applicant is with us virtually, and so if you could please unmute and be sworn in. Thank you.
Hello, this is Matt Roybal.
Mr. Roybal, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Roybal, can you provide your address, please?
3236 New Mexico 41, Stanley, New Mexico 87056.
Please proceed, Mr. Roybal.
So in regards to the questions on the well, I don't believe that is in your guys' jurisdiction. It's with the state office of the engineer, which we've already made provisions with. But just to clarify for you guys, yes, hold on one sec. All right, I'm back. So there are no commercial wells on the property to be defined commercial per the state office of the engineer. The well that's on there is an agriculture well. It's a high producing well for agricultural purposes. It runs 2 irrigation pivots on the well. There's a separate well that was, so in the process of this application, we actually had to re-drill the residential well because of lack of water. So we had to re-drill it deeper. Obviously, that was all permitted through the state office of the engineer. And it was permitted in such a way that allowed the use of this property. And that's all been confirmed with the SOE. So that's, does that answer your questions in regards to the wells?
Yes, thank you.
Do any commissioners have questions? Applicant, are you interested in making a statement, or would you just like to respond to questions?
I'd be happy to respond to questions. I don't think there's any other statements that are necessary unless you guys have specific questions.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so you're going to be running CNC machines and making components for that you will sell to Sandia and whatever. And so is there, so all the materials you're using are not at all things that need special containment or anything?
No, they're not. So we are what we would, I guess, define as a light manufacturing facility. We do CNC manufacturing as well as additive advanced manufacturing. We offer engineering services and manufacturing, and we serve industries like the defense and energy industries that are local here in New Mexico, as well as the medical device industries. We manufacture components. So we take blocks of aluminum, steels, and plastics even, and we'll machine them down, very tight tolerance stuff that is in support. A lot of the work we do is in support of the national labs. So we do small quantity production, high tolerance type stuff. And so we're just looking, essentially what we're doing is we have a facility that is located about 30 minutes from our current location. The current location property is also my residence. We are a small business. And so we're looking to kind of consolidate so that way we're able to just nothing to do with you guys, but just to manage our time a little bit better between the farm and our manufacturing business is why we're looking to move this facility to our current property. Our current property is in a area where we're able to, the facility we're building is going to look no different than the barns that are all over around it. Not on my property, but everybody else's property as well. There's no impact to the outside surroundings area. Everything is housed inside the building, and we're machining things like aluminums and steels, like I said. So nothing reactive, nothing. There's no environmental impacts to our business really at all.
And your millings are all contained and recycled or, addressed, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we recycle 100% of our millings value in it. So.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone else have questions of the applicant? Commissioner Bruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Roybal, if this is approved, will you be applying to Construction Industries Division for a permit for construction for the garage?
Absolutely. We already have plans in process with architects. And so that as soon as this gets approved, those plans will be submitted and we will begin construction
Thank you. And,
on approval of those plans, of course.
okay. I think you've answered this, but just ask it again for the record. Will any hazardous waste be handled on site?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners for the applicant? Thank you. Staff, are there any parties online who are interested in speaking on this?
Mr. Chair, there doesn't seem to be anyone that has their virtual hand raised to speak on this matter.
Okay. And I assume that you're not interested, sir, in speaking on this? I figured that. Thank you. There being no comments, let's close the public hearing. And commissioners, what are your wishes?
I can put a motion out. For case 255040 Ridgeline Manufacturing, I think we should, okay, I've messed up I've messed up my thing. I motion to approve the conditional use permit for case 255040 for Ridgeline Manufacturing, including all of the conditions outlined by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Mr. Roybal. Your application has been approved.
Thank you.
Now, next case is case 24-5330, Verizon New Mexico Communication Facility Conditional Use Permit. Please proceed, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sun State Towers LLC, applicant Pinnacle Consulting agent, requests a conditional use permit to allow a cell tower on 27,782 acre tract. The leased area will be 40 by 40, 1,600 square feet. The site is within the Ag Ranch zoning district. Table 10-3 allows for a height of 150 feet within the Ag Ranch zoning district. Appendix B use matrix illustrates the new wireless communication facility within the Ag Ranch zoning district as a conditional use. The site is located at 364 Lone Mountain Road, SDA 3, within Section 6, Township 12 North, Range 8 East, Commission District 3. The applicant states, we are proposing a new 150-foot tall monopole wireless communication facility with a 40 by 40 by 8 tall fenced compound for associated ground equipment. The wireless facility and mounted antenna equipment will be painted a tan color to blend with the surrounding context as approved by the property owner and community members. The panel antennas will be located on the approved facility at a centerline elevation 146 and grouped in 3 stories for full spectrum coverage. Each sector can hold up to 4 panel antennas, and the tower will have leased space for 3 additional carriers in the future, co-locatables. Based on a vacant area with no plans for future development, this site is ideally located near existing tall utility poles and away from high occupancy areas. The construction phase is relatively fast and will be done upon receiving all necessary approvals. Once construction is complete, these unmanned facilities will require minimal site visits for service and maintenance, ensuring little to no impact on daily activities of the surrounding community. The applicant has addressed the CUP criteria, and staff has responded to the applicant's requests as contained in this memo. On April 10, 2025, this request was presented to the Sustainable Land Development Hearing Officer. The hearing officer memorialized findings of fact and conclusions of law in a written recommended order on this request. The hearing officer, based on the evidence presented, recommended approval of the applicant's conditional use permit with conditions proposed by staff. Building Development Services staff has reviewed this project for compliance with permanent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts present support the request for a conditional use permit to construct a monopole 150 feet in height. The facility meets the proposed and intent outlined in section 1017.2 of the SLDC. The use structures will not impact adjacent land uses, and the application satisfies the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.5. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to construct the monopole 150 feet in height within a 40/40 leased area located at 364 Mountain Road, subject to the following conditions. Mr. Chair, may I enter those conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Commissioners, do we have any questions of staff? Okay. Sir, would you like to make a presentation for the application? Thank you. Please be sworn.
I do. And then David Kluchnik, 17755 North 89th Drive, Peoria, Arizona. KLU, C as in cat, Z as in zebra, NIK. Thank you. Yeah, so just to reiterate what as the planners have said, everybody's done a really good job.
Please lift the mic. Yeah,
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, as the planners have said and stated, right, a lot of the project narrative that he already kind of, put together was in there, but just kind of why we went on this location itself. So to begin with, Verizon has identified the need for service surrounding the NM14 and the communities surrounding it. There's a dire need for emergency services to be able to make calls to car accidents, homeowners in the area. All of those things, there's a dire need for not only Verizon, but for all wireless communication carriers in the area. Specifically why this location was picked on the parcel itself. We worked together with the community members, specifically, the surrounding neighborhood and the Turquoise Trail to come to this location due to the mountainous terrain in the area, as well as the existing power lines and lattice lines in the area to be as least intrusive as possible for the community.
Commissioners, does anyone have questions of the applicant? Please.
What is the rest of the land used for?
It's undeveloped cattle land with no future development plans. Everything, it looks like mostly ranching, grazing land. There's a lot of cow pies on the land, but, a lot of, mountainous terrain, undeveloped with no future plans.
Commissioner Bruger.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Kluchnik, did I get
Kluchnik,
that right?
yeah, really close. Thank you.
Couple questions. You mentioned in the report that noise of the generator and general equipment is very minimal. Like, how minimal? Decibels? Did you do any? Is it?
So so to begin with, it's a generator for emergency purposes only, of course, right? So it's not going to be on at all times. I don't have the exact decibel meters, but it's always going to be below the minimum requirements due to the fact that it's never really going to be on except for emergency situations where power is lost in the area.
Like below 80 or?
Yes, it should be. It's going to be just a normal, I believe in this case, the generator is going to be very minimal below that normal decibel range.
You mentioned that you would do geotechnical investigations on this. When?
Yes, there will be. Yeah, so we will of course apply for those in the initial portion of the application. Due to usually those things are ordered after the approval statement, just due to the amount of the cost for those things. So we requested relief at the time of that for the application, but we will abide by all federal, state, and local guidelines.
And then CID does the general building inspection for this and the electrical?
So in this case, what we've been informed of, so Santa Fe County will have the building permits through Santa Fe County, and then we will go through NMCID as well. NMCID is usually just going to issue the electrical permits for said wireless facilities.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any other commissioners? I've got a few. I believe in one of the photos it indicated that this monopole is going to be adjacent to some transmission lines. Is
Correct.
where you're going to be getting your power? Is there a drop from the is it a distribution line that you can get power from?
So
or
there's
is it
actually normal power lines just below those self-support
Got it.
lattice. So
So
that's where
there's-
we're going to pull power from, not the massive high voltage
Yeah,
lattice
so
lines.
there's transmission and then distribution, and you
Correct.
tap into there off
Yep.
the transformer. The other question I have is the way this works. Verizon builds this and puts their equipment on, and then is there like an open auction so that other carriers can kind of glom onto it, or how does that work?
Good. Yeah. So Pinnacle Consulting Sun State Towers will be the tower owner, right? And then Verizon will be the anchor tenant at the 146-foot center line, as it would be called. The tower is built to accommodate 3 additional carriers on the tower. So 10 feet below that 146 will be the other 3 carriers. 146 is Verizon, 26 all the way down for the additional carriers. I know in the area there's a small tenant pole for AT&T that would be looking to, usually immediately get on the higher elevation so that they can increase service. But of course, what it comes down to is when the need in the area is there, which we can all attest to, it really is a need in the area. They've identified the need as well, so they'd be looking to get on the built tower as well.
Got it. So if TMO comes to you all as the owner and says, we would like to put our equipment there, that's something that you could accommodate?
100%. Yep,
Got it.
that's the reason it's built 4 additional carriers, I'm sorry.
So the first one's called the anchor tenant, and then the remainder just kind of, as the opportunity arises, they may
Yes, sir.
be
Yep.
interested. Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Is there anyone, not in the room, anyone online interested in speaking either for or against this?
Mr. Chair, there's no one online wishing to speak on this matter.
Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. What is the interest of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve case number 24-5330 with all staff conditions as set forth in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Bruger.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can we have a roll call vote? Uh-oh, Carl.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Next is petitions from the floor. Nothing there. Matters from the commission. Do any of the commissioners have any matters they would like to bring forth? The June 15th meeting. Since Juneteenth.
June 18th.
18th,
Which is a
okay.
Wednesday. Wednesday, June 18th.
Wednesday, June 18th is the next scheduled meeting, and I'm sorry to say you will not be there. Any other matters from the commission? Commissioner Pava.
I'm just curious to know about, there was an allusion made to recent staff changes. Can you give us some background or information, what you're able to inform us about, and how staffing is working with the county? Are you going to be all right? And basically, in general, just checking in.
So, yes, so as you may know from my email, former Land Use Administrator Jordan Yitzi is no longer with Santa Fe County. Our Director, Alexandra Ladd, is now acting Land Use Administrator. A position had been posted and closed. And as you can tell, John Lovato, one of the Building Development Supervisors, and myself, the other Building Development Supervisor, are kind of dual acting multi-roles here, which is a lot of staff in our department is doing as well. But we're getting through it. We're trying to staff up. We're going through interviews this week as we speak, hopefully to try and get fully staffed here soon.
Thanks very much. Any other matters from any other commissioner?
Just a general comment. So since it's the second meeting I'm here and stuff, and so my full last name is actually La Cruz Crawford, and I want to make sure, I guess, that gets mentioned from future on, so that way it's just not half of my last name being said.
Luz
So it's
Crawford.
La Cruz Crawford, yeah. Oh, no worries. No problem, yeah, so, cool.
Thank you. Matters from the attorney.
Nothing to bring to your attention this meeting, thank you.
Matters from staff.
No comments from staff.
Okay, so our next regularly scheduled meeting is a day away from June 19th. It's June 18th. So please put that on your calendars. And sorry you can't be here, Wendy. And so, may I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, second and... All in favor? Aye.
Aye.